Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. I am here to do another video, as you can see by the title, that's going to talk about love spells and what you should be looking for, or basically what you need to know prior to doing a love spell. I do still get a lot of questions and comments from you guys on my older videos as far as like how you can do a certain spell on somebody, or how you want somebody to be more submissive to you, or basically just a whole dominant spell as within itself. So I wanted to go ahead and post another video on love spells, just in case those who are new to my channel have not watched my previous videos on this subject. So if you're interested, continue to watch. So first things first, when doing a love spell, you always want to make sure that you research exactly what it is that you're doing. Like right now, we're in the day and age of social media where you can easily access different spells, and people sometimes will just post whatever on their channel just so that, you know, it can bring in an audience. And honestly, they may not know exactly what they're doing or how they're supposed to be doing it. So first things first is you just want to make sure that you research everything that you're doing. Don't just look online, even including my channel. Don't just look online and be like, okay, I'm gonna do this and that, but you don't really know exactly what it is, what you're doing. Like if they're using different herbs, you should know what each of those herbs represent within the love spell. If they're using an oil, you need to know what that represents. If they're burning a candle, what color candle is it? How are they burning the candle? Do they even explain how the flame looks while they're burning that candle? There's just so much that goes into doing a love spell and interpreting it, and also making sure that the love spell works out within your favor. So that's the first tip that I have for you guys, is always do your research, no matter what. And it's not just with love spells, just any kind of spell, a ritual or working that you're doing for yourself or even for other people. You want to make sure that you know everything that is within that working, why you are using this, what this tool represents, because sometimes, you know, you may open stuff, or you may open channels that you were not trying to open, and only thing you were trying to do was a love spell. But since you were following an easy tutorial online, you know, you kind of just open doors or gateways that you specifically did not want to open. So again, make sure you research. Okay, and the second tip that I want to give is don't do any kind of spell or workings on someone who is upset with you, or if you had a bad breakup, or if you have bad blood between you and this person. Do not do a love spell on this person to bring them back into your life. And the reason being is, with love spells, or with any kind of spell that goes against a person's free will, if you bring this person back into your life who is upset with you or is still upset with you, it's possible that that love spell can backfire on you in more ways than one. Because one, this person, it's, you know, the spell is so strong, like this person cannot control their actions, and they get frustrated as far as like, why am I still attracted to this person? Why can't I stay away from this person? You know, and it's like a battle within themselves that they're fighting, to the point where they take that aggression out on you. So you want to be very, very careful as far as in trying to bring someone back into your life who you are not on mutual grounds with. You're not, you know, how can I put it? Like the breakup wasn't mutual, or this person is not upset with you. So you just want to be very, very careful about that. One thing that I can suggest, if you are trying to bring someone back into your life where you did not end on good terms, is like doing something sweetening, like a sweetening jar or a honey jar, or any kind of candle burning that's basically going to soften that person's feelings about you in order to bring them back into your life. Because it's just that whole resistance thing that's going to backfire on you, and it doesn't turn out, you know, good. It doesn't turn out pretty or anything like that. So you just want to make sure that you and this person do not have any bad blood between each other, are not in a disagreement with each other, and are not angry with each other, because that's exactly what that spell is going to bring. This person will be back in your life, but they'll be angry, and they'll be angry with you. So be careful. Be very, very careful. Another thing to be mindful of is when you do a love spell, a love spell is binding. Some of these spells that you can do are very strong rituals and spells to where this person, excuse me, this person may be in your life forever. Even if you've, let's say for example, you're going through a phase, you broke up with somebody, right? And you really want this person back. And so you do the spell, you do the working, and this person comes back into your life, right? And you get to the point where you're just tired. Like okay, I had my little fun with you. The only reason I did this spell was because I wanted to prove that I could bring you back into my life to do, whatever, just to basically have you around until I find someone else better than you. So you want to make sure, if you're doing something like that it's not just someone who you want to bring in for a moment of time till you find something better, and then you want to get rid of them, but then you've done this love spell on them and you can't get rid of them, and it's like, you can't truly move forward with your life because you've attached this person to you. So you want to be mindful that when doing these love spells, that certain love spells, a lot of them can be binding. So that goes back to the first thing that I was talking about. Always make sure that you do your research before doing any kind of binding or love spell with somebody in your life. And lastly is, you just want to make sure when you are doing the spell, and this kind of ties into the last thing that I was saying, don't do anything out of spite. You want to make sure that your intentions are true and that this is what you really, really do want. As we know, our mind is a powerful thing. There's power in the tongue, there's power in our thoughts, and we can bring both through our words and our thoughts. We can bring that into our reality. So you want to make sure that you are being careful, again, that you know what you're doing, and that this is something that you truly, truly want. Especially if you are burning a candle and you're asking spirit to assist you with this, it's going to bring it to you in some form or fashion. And sometimes this stuff can circle back around and it can blow up in your face. And it may not be exactly what it is that you were expecting or wanting to come out of the spell. So you just want to make sure that you are always careful and that you always study and know exactly what it is that you want. Again, intentions are everything. And one thing I cannot say is don't do, and that's with any kind of working, don't do anything out of anger or spite, because that's exactly what's going to come back to you in more ways than one. So I know this was a short video, but I just wanted to briefly discuss these topics as far as doing love workings and love spells, because you just never exactly know what may come about or what may happen within the situation. All right, you guys, so I have a story time as far as it's about two individuals, and we'll name the guy Davis and we'll name the female Renee. So basically with this love spell and this story is, Renee was in her mid-20s. We'll say she was probably about 25, 30, within that age range. And she was a heartfelt believer in love, in true love. And she knew that no matter what situation she went through, that love will always prevail, which is not a wrong way to think, in my opinion. You just have to be careful with that, and you have to be careful that you are not looking at the world through rose-colored glasses, basically. So the story is, Renee was one day shopping at TJ Maxx, right? She was doing her thing, running her errands. She picked out herself a few nice outfits, and just basically doing her thing. And as she was leaving TJ Maxx, she ran into this man, and this man's name is Davis. Basically, back during this time, there were people that who were trying to get their music out, were selling their mixtapes on the streets. So Davis approached Renee and asked her if she wanted to purchase one of his mixtapes. So of course, when Renee saw him, she was instantly attracted to him. She thought he was a very good looking and handsome man. And she was like, of course, I'm going to go ahead and support this person because, one, he looks good. So what she did, she went ahead and purchased his CD, and Davis did find her attractive as well, and they ended up exchanging numbers. So texts turned into phone calls, and phone calls eventually turned into them visiting each other and spending time with each other. Now, Renee and Davis did go out from time to time, out to eat, out to different restaurants and different things like that. And Renee ended up getting a job opportunity in Atlanta, which of course she was happy and proud about, because this was more, this was an increase in finances, increase in money, and it was just ultimately a better choice as far as moving there rather than staying where she was. The only downfall is because she had just met Davis and she really liked him. And of course, like I said in the beginning, Renee was real big on love. So she felt like in her mind, every man that comes into her life deserves a chance, and she wanted to give Davis a chance as well. So when she broke the news to Davis, of course, he was upset and he was sad, and he was telling her, I can't, I just met you. I don't want to leave you. I don't want you to leave me. I don't want us to be separated. And I'm not real big on long-term, relationships. So Renee said to Davis, okay, well, why not move with me to Atlanta? If this is something that we're big about and we really want to do, why not come with me to Atlanta? You're already trying to get out into the music business, and Atlanta is the perfect place for you to flourish and continue to, sell your music, produce your music. Who knows, you may run into a producer and you could blow up, your music could blow up and you could blow up big. So Davis thought about it and he was like, okay, something, she's onto something. She has a good point there. So he went ahead, packed up his stuff, and both of them moved to Atlanta. Now, mind you, Renee was the financial provider basically within this relationship, right? So Renee had the apartment, she had the job, she had the car, she had everything. When Davis, all he had was basically his clothes. His suitcase, his clothes, he didn't have a car. He was still trying to search for a job, and he was just mainly focused on his music, his career in that field. And so Renee was really high-strung off of Davis. She really liked him, and they, with time, continued to grow closer and closer together. And Renee did she did some dibble and dabbling within the spirituality, within the magical work and spell work and different things like that. But she had never actually did a working or a spell on an individual. She just did, different jars or different spells on herself, stuff like that, basically. So it's like she decided that she really liked Davis. She really wanted him to stay with her no matter what outcome may come from them being in Atlanta. And so she went ahead and did a love spell on David. So basically this spell was done to increase what they had between them and just basically keep Davis by her side. I'm calling him David this whole time, but Davis by her side, so that their love can continue to grow and Davis would not stray from what it is, no matter what was going on within the situation. So she went ahead, she wrote her petition, she burned her candle, she spoke over that candle, and she let it go. And then the next thing you know, a few days later, she noticed that Davis's attitude was changing towards her. And this wasn't in a negative way or anything like that. She just noticed that he was more in tune to her. Like he wanted to always be with her. He was always doing things for her. He would want to buy her gifts, or he'd want to take her out somewhere, or he just wanted to always be around her. It was almost to the point where he was almost starting to get clingy. And at first she didn't mind it, but then she was just like, okay, I really cannot do anything. Like I can't even go to the grocery store without you wanting to follow behind me or without you wanting to come with me. And it's like she always kept in the back of her mind, like, yeah, I did this spell to attach him to me, to make him, more, his love to grow even stronger for me, and just for him to be solely focused on no one but me. And within this spell, that was exactly what she was getting it. She was actually getting it times 10, to the point where Renee was starting to feel like, okay, this is too much. This is overwhelming. So basically she, went along with it. And this, we'll say like a few months had passed by, and like Davis was just going above and beyond for Renee. Like it was just crazy. It's to the point where she was calling her best friend and she was like, girl, she's like, I can't do anything. I honestly cannot do anything without this man following me. And it's like Renee within time was like seeing different guys who she did find attractive. When you go to a new city, sometimes it's a whole new field of people, attractive people. So of course you're going to look, you may be interested, different things like that. But she had to remember that she did this working on Davis, and Davis was the one who was supposed to have been in her mind for her. So things started really to turn around when Davis basically told her. He was like, you know, I don't care who comes into your life. I don't care where you go. I will always be with you and you will always be mine. Now, that's the scary part right there. Whenever, to break away from the story, whenever someone tells you that you will always be theirs or you will never go anywhere, you want to kind of take heed to that. You want to be like, okay, antennas, why is this person saying this to me? Why do they always want me here? And we're not married. So the next thing that Renee knew was that Davis was starting to get a little bit physical from time to time. Whenever she was trying to leave to go out to like hang with friends or different things like that, if he could not go, he would physically start to grab on her and be like, okay, you're not going, you have to stay here. And she would be like, no, you know, I'm going, let go of me, I want to go. If this is something I want to do, you should trust me and let me do it. And so he would pull on her and she would be pulling back and forth, and the next thing you know, it kind of turned out to a shrug. Like they were pushing each other, they were shrugging each other and different things like that, to where it was, you know, basically turning into a physical altercation. And this would happen every single time that Renee tried to step out the door if Davis was unable to go with her. And he would always remind her, I told you that you will always be mine, no matter what happens and no matter what you do and no matter where you go or who you meet, you will always, always, always be mine. So it got to the point where Davis soon, it seemed like he was fighting like different demons within himself. Like she noticed that he was giving her mean looks from time to time. She noticed sometimes he would not trust the food that she would cook for him when he used to love her cooking and loved everything about her. It got to the point where his appearance just started looking more different and different. Like he shaved less, his hair was starting to look real matted and ratted and different things like that. And he just started becoming a completely different person between, you know, in front of her eyes. And so at that point, she was like, okay, enough is enough. I need to get rid of Davis. I was like, you know, she was like, well, you know, there's nothing that I can do. I did this spell and now this man is seriously hooked on me and has a mental problem. So basically she told him, she's like, okay, she built up the courage, she built up the strength. She's like, okay, I'm gonna tell him that he has to leave. And mind you, Davis was still trying to, like, he had his little side job at the grocery store and different things like that. So money was coming in, but Davis wasn't really making enough to live on his own because he was still depending on Renee to take care of everything. And Renee was doing that. So she was fed up. She told him that he needs to leave, that this relationship is over with, and that he needs to go and find somewhere to stay. She's like, you cannot stay here. I'll give you money for a hotel. If you need hotel money for a whole week, I will provide that money to you, but you cannot stay here. And after she told him that, all hell broke loose. Davis, he was looking down. He put his head down. He put his hands on his head and was just shaking his head. And then he looked up at her and she was like, the look that he had in his eyes was like as if it was someone else. Like it was not him. Basically like if it was some type of entity, a demon, different things like that when he was looking at her. And she said he just started breathing heavy and more heavy and looked at her and he was like, I told you. He's like, you're not going anywhere. You're mine. I told you that you're mine forever. And so he stood up and started walking to her. And so she backed up, was like, okay, wait, what are you doing? Like, do I need to, get ready? Like, what's going on? I'm ready and stuff. And so he stormed to her and he got in her face and he's like, look, mother, you know what I'm saying? He was like, you can't get rid of me. He's like, I'm here and I'm not going anywhere. And he's like, call the effing police. And so she looked at him and she was just kind of like, nope. Okay, Renee, she kind of had a little bit, thuggish, ruggish in her. She wasn't afraid of anything. She wasn't afraid of a fight. So here this man was in her face telling her what he was and was not going to do when she told him that he needs to leave. So Renee, she bucked up. She was ready. She was like, look, I'm going to call the police and you better be gone before they get here. And so she went to go get her cell phone. Her cell phone was sitting over on the little dining room table. So she went to get it. And before she could even make it to her phone, she felt this very hard push on her back to the point where she hit the floor so hard that she could feel this part of her wrist. She could feel it crack. And so she stood up. she was crying. She was like, why did you do that? Why did you push me and stuff? Like, what is going on? What is wrong with you? And next thing she knows is that he snatched her and grabbed her by her arm and was basically hitting her and slapping her. And he was like, kept repeating stuff. I told you, you are mine. You are mine forever. I'm not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere. No matter who comes between us, where you go, different things like that, I am here. I'm not going anywhere. So the next thing you know, Renee got up. She was able to get away. She snatched her phone and she ran into the bathroom and she closed the door and she locked the door. So she was calling the police, and while she was calling the police, you could hear him. I'm trying to make banging sounds. You can hear him just banging the door. Let me in, let me in, let me in. I told you, I told you I'm not going no motherfucking way. I told you, And he was just banging on the door. And she was crying and she was calling it. She's like, please come to this such address. And the officer was like, okay, ma'am, we will be there right away. So she would say what felt like was probably like about 25 minutes, because there's always a lot of traffic in Atlanta and it takes forever to get somewhere in Atlanta. Basically what took about 20 to 25 minutes felt like hours to her. And the entire time this man was banging and yelling on the door. He was kicking the door. He even tried to, how this is old school, how you can unlock a lock within the door. He even tried doing that, and it was like everything that he tried to do was basically unsuccessful. Meanwhile, Renee was in the bathroom. She was crying. She was calling her friends. She's like, he's trying to get me. And of course, her friends are panicking because she's in a completely different state. So there's nothing that they can do. So they tell her, okay, just, if you do whatever you can do to protect yourself, if you need to pray, if you need to, barricade the door, whatever you can do to protect yourself. If you have any kind of cleansing, not like cleansing solution, like bathroom cleanser, if he happens to break through that door, spray him down, spray him in his face so that he's blind and he can't see, and you can still get away. So she was just sitting there. She was looking around, looking through the cabinets, just ready for that door to bust open at any moment, at any minute in time. And the next thing you know, she hears banging that's outside of what Davis's banging was doing. And she heard the police saying, this is the police, this is the police, open the door. And then all of a sudden, everything just went quiet. And she's sitting there, she's looking, and she's listening, and she's like, what's going on? Like, she couldn't hear the police, she couldn't hear Davis, she couldn't hear absolutely nothing. And then all of a sudden, she heard a bang again. This is the police, open up. And so she just sat there, and she's like, well, do I leave? He's still out there. Do I yell? Do I scream? Like, where is Davis? Like, I am barricaded. I'm stuck in this bathroom. I can't get out because this man is outside of this door and he's trying to take my life. And so next thing you know, she heard a big bang. Pow! And she heard the police coming up the stairs. You like my sound effects? Heard the police coming up the stairs. And she could hear Davis just yelling and screaming at the officers. And the officers were like, stand back, stand still. You're basically arrested. Come with us. And so she heard the police and Davis just scuffling. And she was just, this whole time she's behind the bathroom. And so she can hear it. And she's like, do I open the door? Do I not open the door? And so she's just listening to everything. And then again, she heard them tackle Davis. And she heard the officers yelling and screaming at him, and she could hear him still screaming. And so she figured, okay, it's okay for me to open the door. So she opened the door, and when she opened the door, she looked down at Davis, and Davis had scratches all over his face. Like, his face was bleeding. He had scratches on his neck, scratches on his hands. And these were not scratches that had came from the police. These were scratches of this man completely losing his mind and basically just scratching himself because he was so upset that he could not get to Renee. He was so upset that she was breaking up with him. Like I said before, this man had completely changed into a completely different person. So it's like she saw him and she just looked at him. He looked up at her and he gave her like this look, like, I'm gonna get you. You know what I'm saying? Like that look in the scary movies. I'm going to get you. But she knew she was okay. But she saw them take him out, put him in the police car, and the police car drove off. And all she could do was just sit there and just cry. She boo-hoo cried. She cried and cried and cried. She cried for the entire night. She cried up until the morning. And she was like, I cannot stay here in Atlanta. I have to move back home. And so that's exactly what she did. And it's like when she moved back home, she did a whole bunch of cleansings over herself. She burned candles. She did everything she possibly could do to break this spell of binding Davis to her. And it got to the point eventually where she felt relief. She felt cleansed. She felt like his spirit was no longer around her, and she could do what she, always wanted to do and continue on with love, with trust, and with continuing on with her life. Because like I said in the beginning, she was a believer in love. She knew that somehow, some way, no matter what she went through, she was going to find love. But she did learn her lesson as far as when it comes to doing a love spell on someone, and just to be careful with that. So that's my story for you guys. I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope this video was very informative. Of course, if you have any questions or comments, do feel free to leave them in the comment section. If this is the kind of information and videos that you like, do subscribe to my channel. I would love to have you here. I would love to have you as a part of the family. And again, thank you for returning. Thank you for watching the video. I'm getting ready to record another video, so you will see me in the same outfit. So yeah, see y'all. Bye.